Aloha. I'm CD Demitio. I'm a writer, a guy who looks outside the system because the system's kind of fucked up. It's always been kind of fucked up, and it's always bothered me. For those of you who know me, I've been a Marine, I was a stockbroker, I worked in tech, I published with magazines, I wrote commercials, I worked in insurance, I've tried all kinds of jobs, and the truth is, it's the system that actually sucks. And so I've worked really hard, harder than I've worked in the system. I've worked to live outside the system. And the first time that I really shared that was back in 2003 when I published my first book, Rough Living, Tips and Tales of a Vagabond. And Rough Living was all about quitting your job, dropping out of the system, and still living a life that was pretty good. And since then, I've done that a lot. I've moved to other countries. I've lived in Morocco and Turkey. I've had non-traditional employment. I've hustled. I've maybe was the guy who invented the hashtag van life back in the day. And there is just a lot of that stuff. What I realize now, though, several decades into this, I'm 52. I know, don't I look good? Anyway, yeah, there's not a wrinkle there. So anyway, what I've realized is that I would really like to have a place to call home, where a landlord can't say, sorry, the market's up, we're going to sell, or a landlord can't say, oh, I've decided I'm going to move in myself, or, whatever. Or I'm going to raise the rent and make it unsustainable for you. So I live here in Hawaii. I love living in Hawaii. Hawaii's a beautiful place to be. It's got so many great things. One of the things that's not great, however, is on this island of Oahu, and all the other islands, really, at this point, you can't afford to live if you're living a traditional kind of lifestyle. And if you're living a non-traditional lifestyle, it makes it hard as well. Harder. Here on Oahu, minimum that you're going to pay for a house that you can inhabit, a condo that is like decent for a couple of people, is probably going to be close to $1 million. I don't have $1 million. I'd like to have $1 million. Maybe something will happen where I have $1 million, but I don't have it. And there's no way that I can buy a house here because I'm non-traditionally employed. I don't have a job that puts money in my bank every month. I don't have a business that, makes enough income and reports all that income and, all that kind of stuff. And so I've been feeling very left out of home ownership. I actually started looking on the Big Island, and I put a couple offers in on some what seemed pretty reasonably priced houses. And that was in 2020, just when all of the big money started flowing in because people saw that inflation was going to happen, and they started making offers that were well over the asking price and in cash, and I just couldn't compete with that. I got outbid on a couple of places, and that dream sort of faded, unfortunately. And I've tried several times, but the problem is the prices keep going up, and the quality of the place where you live keeps going down, and that's not cool. So I want to own a house. Now, I've lived in Morocco, I've lived in Turkey. I know that I could probably figure out how to get a house in either of those places, but I don't particularly want to live in Morocco anymore or in Turkey, just for a variety of reasons. And I do love that my kid is here and goes to school here in Hawaii, and I want to be close enough to be able to get here if I have a house somewhere else. And I don't want to force her to go live in a Muslim country. Not that there's anything wrong with Muslim countries, but I do like that she's growing up as an American girl with an American attitude, as a Hawaiian, person who lives in Hawaii. She's not Hawaiian, we're not Hawaiian, but you probably get what I'm saying. Like, I like the mentality that we have here, and I want her to have that. So I've started looking other places. There's places like Bali, which is beautiful and affordable, and they're working on this like digital nomad visa, but again, it's a little far. The Philippines has some things like that, but same thing. But Japan might be something worth considering. So, so I've begun considering. I started looking, I started doing a little research. I discovered there's these things called Akiya or Akaya. I think it's Akiya, Akiya, and that essentially what's happening in Japan is the population is declining, and the population is all moving to urban centers. And as that happens, these smaller towns in rural areas or in places that aren't so urban and desirable, they start to have houses that nobody lives in, and maybe old people die and the family doesn't want to live into the house anymore, or there's all kinds of reasons why these houses are, maybe they need repairs. But what it comes down to is that right now, at this moment in Japan, you can buy very reasonably priced houses that offer a lot of what I'm looking for. So I found a couple houses that I liked. I found a region that I like. It's very different from Hawaii. It's northern. It has ocean and mountains and snow, and it is somewhat rural, but close enough to a major urban population center that, a train ride of an hour will get you into a big city. And so I'm going to Japan tomorrow. I've made the arrangements with a realtor. I'm going to go look at the house. I've worked with a couple of different organizations to find out how to go about the contracts, how to go about the buying and everything else. And really, I'm 90% on buying this house. And now this is going to maybe blow your mind. You might be thinking like, okay, so you got all this stuff. You can buy a nice house in Japan or a decent house in Japan. But, how much money is that? Like less than buying a nice car here in Hawaii. Seemingly close to inhabitable, a yard, a garden, place to hang your hat and sleep, and a little bit of space. So we'll see what this is all about. But that is my plan. That is what I'm doing. And tomorrow, get on a plane, fly to Japan, spend a couple days in Tokyo, and then head up to Hokkaido and this town that I've found that I really like the feel of so far from afar, Otaru. So we'll see what happens there, but that's what I'm doing. So it's going to be really complex because there's all these things. Like, you can buy a house in Japan, but that doesn't give you citizenship. It doesn't give you the ability to live in that house year round. You can buy a house and use it as a vacation rental. I think you can stay 90 days and then you have to leave 90 days and then you can be back 90 days, stuff like that. But honestly, that might actually work for me. That could actually work in my favor. And there's some other potential options as well that, things like getting a job, getting sponsored for a visa, things like that. So we'll see. But what my intent is at this point is to buy a motherfucking house in Japan and write some books there. Yeah, that's it. Publish some magazines, do some Web3 shit, and maybe start building a little bit of a life in Japan as well as the life that I have here in Hawaii. And who knows, maybe it would just be a big transition from one to the other, but we'll see. That's all I got for now. I just wanted to get this down before I fly out tomorrow and this process begins. Aloha. Okay, well, I'm back from that trip. And it was awesome. Like, I loved Hokkaido. I wish there was a way that I could permanently live in Hokkaido, but that's not I don't know, I guess there's ways, but I don't have a way to do that now. I don't have the job. But I'd like to find a way to do that because I really liked it. And I did place an offer on a house through my friend Mika-san and my new friend, a realtor in Tokyo. And she helped me to place the offer. I went and looked at the house. She acted as translator with the real estate agent. As I looked at it, it was completely buried in snow, but didn't seem to have any leaks. Everything seemed to be structurally good. And when I thought about it, the cost of the house with the property is roughly about the same as buying a a good used car. So even if it requires some repairs, I think it's going to be the right decision moving forward. The paperwork, and there's still a lot to figure out, but I've looked at the house. I made an offer. They accepted the offer, and now Mika-san's going to be helping me, to make that reality happen. So there'll be a whole bunch of other stuff to add to this. The final update, I did get the job teaching English. The job is about an hour's commute from the house. I did get the house. The house is closed. It's owned by me. Working on everything. There are still so many unknowns at this point. So I'll be leaving in about a week and heading to Japan, heading to the house, seeing if the utilities work and everything else. I'll talk more about the whole process of how the buying of the house went later on, but this is where we are right at the moment. I own a house in Japan. I have a job that has a 1-year contract, so I have a visa that allows me to live in Japan for a year, and here we are. That's the part that we're doing now. So pretty exciting. Look forward to updating you guys on this entire process and sharing it with you, and just seeing how it all goes. Talk with you soon.